Good Monday morning, my peeps. It's Adrienne Talks, and I am so honored to have our guest this morning, Nick Tasler, here with us. I saw him at Tastefully Simple's conference. He is the most amazing motivational speaker, and so many things he said really spoke to me. He also has the book Impulse Factor. I mean, he's everywhere. So, Nick, thank you for coming on and sharing with my listeners. Welcome.
The pleasure is all mine. And by the way, I say you might have the coolest title of any podcast.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I actually started it because I always used to get the Yo Adrienne like everywhere
I can imagine.
went.
Yeah.
And it's funny because now like some of the younger people are like, I don't get it. Why the yo?
That's right. That's a really good. I have to road test that with my sons. We did watch I think at least 5 of the Rockies over the pandemic, but I still don't know if they would actually catch the reference.
Pick up on it, right? Yeah. Well, I always used to be like, oh, why do people do that? And I finally was like, you know what? Just embrace it. Love it. Go with it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, there's actually, that's actually a great business lesson as well, business strategy lesson. If I think I'm digressing a little bit.
No, I love it. That's what we do here.
I think for so many, and I'm talking like corporations, and I would say it's even more true for individual entrepreneurs, is like when a corporation a business really kind of finds its footing is when they've just like owned who they are. They stop chasing what everybody else is doing. And this competitor is doing that. I got to do that. And they're this or whatever. And they just like own that thing about them that makes them unique. And it might not even be a quote advantage. It's just a unique thing.
Yes.
And that's how brands are built.
And that it's so true too, because we talk about that a lot on, a lot of different guests I have and stuff. It's just, people want to look at other things and be like, oh, I want that. I want this. But really, it's you. Like people love you. They follow you. They want what you have to offer. And you being genuinely you is what attracts people to you. So
absolutely.
It's so true.
One of my favorite examples of that is Burberry, the fashion brand. I used to say Burberry. Then I spoke to a group in England who were like, oh my gosh, you stupid Yank. It's Burberry. So
now you
got it. If it sounds funny the way I'm saying, or maybe you guys already knew, but I thought it was Burberry, right?
I would have said that too.
Yeah. But anyway, so, they had this kind of pretty well-known turnaround in the mid 2000s. And kind of the crux of it was this woman, Angela Ahrendts, comes in and she takes over as CEO. And even though she's from Indiana, she takes over this storied British fashion brand. And her whole thrust for the turnaround strategically was we're going to focus on our British heritage, our Britishness. And it was kind of a funny thing. For a long time, Burberry had been following like, ooh, Louis Vuitton is doing this and Gucci is doing this. And they were like chasing what these other luxury brands were doing. And her big strategic insight was like, no, we're going to embrace our Britishness. And like in practice, that meant that they kind of built their entire wardrobe, their new wardrobe around the trench coat, which is actually the article of clothing that started the brand. Thomas Burberry was an actual person who back in the World War I created a coat to keep British soldiers warm and dry in the trenches of World War I.
I had no idea.
Yes. And he created this whole new fabric that would keep them warm and dry and in the trenches. And so that's where we get the trench coat. And so she 2007, and they're like losing market share to the millennials and whatever. They're just not interested. And it was very counterintuitive that she was like, no, we're going to attract the new generation by going back in time to our British roots, to this thing that makes us unique and individual. And it totally turned the company around. So again, who would have thought that their Britishness, the thing that they all thought was mundane and boring, was actually the thing that made them stand out and that made people want to do business with them again.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. And I know you have a lot of stories like that just always, I don't know, it really speaks to me because so many people out there are chasing, like you said, chasing something like I should be like this, or I should do that, or I see this, instead of like, hey, look at you, ask yourself the hard questions. Like, what do you want to do? What do you enjoy? Where did you come from? Right?
Yeah. Yes.
And
Yeah. And what, like, like in your story, like, what is that thing that people have always given you a hard time about? And like, how can you spin that on its head and make that the core of your brand? Because it's already clearly getting brand awareness from people you don't want, right? You've never wanted that awareness, but it's something you don't even have to do. It's just part of you, right?
and it has been hilarious because that's what I had to do. Like you said, I had to shift my mind because for a while I was like I said, I was just like, seriously. And then I was like, it was actually kind of fun to watch people try to act like Sylvester Stallone when they see me. It's actually pretty entertaining. Like, I'm like, why am I embarrassed? They're the ones that look ridiculous. This is amazing. Like, I just had to kind of flip it.
Absolutely. And, I know one of the things you focus on a lot in your podcast is mindset, right? And it is kind of like having this empowered, confident mindset that we all need, particularly if we're embarking on an entrepreneurial venture, right? On this journey of entrepreneurship, yes. Because it's fun and it's exciting, but it can be really hard sometimes psychologically, mentally, right? And I think one of the nice things about that is like when you kind of do this mental judo and you take this thing you've always looked at as a weakness and you turn it into a strength, like nothing boosts your confidence more than that. You've just eliminated one of the gigantic demons that's been chasing you around for, your whole life. And now you've tamed it and made it your beast of burden for you.
Right. And if I remember right, you kind of have a story like that too, don't you? That was when you were young. Would you share that? I think that would be great.
Yeah. So a long time ago, what's well, I'll get to that later, but so back when I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with a condition called growth hormone deficiency dwarfism, which basically meant that even though I was 13 years old, I had the bone age, the skeletal structure of a 7-year-old. So like if I would have died and been buried and someone would have anthropologists would have found my bones 1,000 years from now, they would have said this is a 7-year-old boy, right? And I was actually like 13, gonna be 14. And so that's how small I was. I looked like a 7-year-old and I was the size of a 7-year-old. And it sucked.
When you're young, it's hard, right? Like you're trying to fit in and do everything normal, and you were a lot smaller than everybody, I'm guessing. At that age.
Absolutely. I mean, significantly smaller. And one of the parts about this that was really hard on me is that it really got in the way of sports, and I loved playing sports. And that was always just like a huge part of who I thought I was when I was a little boy. There's probably realistically, I was never going to be in the NFL or the NBA. Right. But, when you're a young man or a young woman and that's a huge part of your life. Right.
Well, and you also don't tell, a 7-year-old believes they can do it. I mean, that's right. The thing, right? Like you thought you could, and you know what? You probably could. You can do anything. Yeah. It's just, body structure wise, I can see where that would play.
Yeah, it was a huge issue. And, kind of the way that I got over it was like, it hit this, inflection point. This like the rubber hit the road when, I got diagnosed with that at the same time as my family moved. So, even though I had always been really small, I was surrounded by kids that I had kind of like grown up with. So everyone was just used to it. It wasn't that big a deal. All of a sudden I changed schools and I'm just like a freak. Like everybody's like, whoa, what?
Kids are so mean.
Yeah. And they are and they aren't. I mean, like I say, I was a freak, but like it was, it really wasn't, I didn't get bullied or anything like that. And it was almost like, in fact, in a weird way, again, this is like how the weakness becomes a strength or whatever. Yeah. I was like so little that it was like, you couldn't bully me. Like I wasn't just like a little different than everybody, like so little that it just wouldn't even make sense to bully me. Right. And so I almost, in some ways, I got like special treatment. And, I mean, I didn't always want the special treatment, right? You just kind of want to fit in when you're that age.
Of course. Yeah.
But at the same time, I was able to leverage it a little bit, and So, when all my sports dreams were kind of becoming dashed, I started turning my attention more to school type academic achievements. And so, I started, I participated in the spelling bee, found out, whoa, I'm a pretty good speller. I don't really know what you can do with that in life, but
hey, but you can beat people in a spelling contest, and
but you
that's
can
important.
beat people in a spelling bee. And then that kind of led into another thing where, again, I kind of got this special treatment. I got attention from other kids that, again, not because I was special, but it's sort of in the Yo Adrienne sense, like the spotlight was kind of always on me. And actually, I didn't mention this before, Adrienne, when I was giving my talk, but so Ursula Burns, she was the first Black Fortune 500 CEO, female CEO, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she was the CEO of Xerox. And in her memoir, she talks about how she sort of used this unique status to her advantage. So on the one hand, she's like, up against these huge odds. She's Black, she's a woman, she's got all these things working against her. But she was like, the one advantage is I'm the only one like me in a room of 40 other executives. Every time I raise my hand, I'm going to get called on because you can't miss me. And so you think about that, and it's like she used it to get noticed, to get attention. Now, of course, when they called on her, she had to say something intelligent, right? Oh. That's the other part of it.
Right.
But a huge part of the battle was just getting the attention. And again, this thing that had always been a disadvantage, she turned it to her benefit. And so I did the same thing by running for class president. All eyes were on me. I had I didn't even need campaign stickers. Everybody knew who I was, right? And I won, and probably in large part, I don't know, maybe I got sympathy votes, maybe,
No, but I think a lot of it is because you could turn it to that. Like you flipped, even being that young. I mean, that's what spoke to me so much. Like I told you, I've talked to my daughter about you and stuff like that too. I mean, when you can be that young and flip the script for yourself, because you could have went down the path of, I wanted to do this, I wanted to do that, and I can't, and I'm not going to do anything, and went down a really not so great road. But you, that young, even said, I can use this. Like, people know me. I'll use a popularity contest and watch me, be the class president. And like, how amazing is that? Because like you said, I think every person, no matter why people's eyes are on you, like you said, if it's something physical, mental, whatever, like you can change that to your advantage.
Yes. And it really is, a matter of perspective. And, if I would have walked around with my head hanging and sitting over in the corner everywhere because I didn't want anybody to notice me, I would have got a very different outcome, just like if I'd done everything I could to avoid the attention, well, eventually I wouldn't have gotten it,
Right.
But if you embrace it, if you say, yo, Adrienne, it can really work to your advantage.
Well, and I think it changes like, all the weight, right? Like whatever you take with it, the emotion that you probably had when you were giving up sports and you were feeling, like you were different size than everybody else. When you flipped it, you now kind of take that weight off. You have the power to take the weight off your own shoulders. And I think that's what, I really appreciated about your talk too, is because I think so many people in business are trying to, like you said in the beginning, chase something else and not be themselves. But if they just put that weight off their shoulders and just were themselves, I think it would skyrocket, right? Like, I think that they would show everybody like, hey, I'm here and I'm doing my thing my way. And the people who, we all know 100% of people aren't going to like you. That's not going to happen. But the ones when you're genuinely you that you're going to attract are the ones that want genuinely you,
That's exactly right. And again, I always think we always talk about in business, like adding value. And I can't really say like you can't say that the fact that people say, yo, Adrienne adds value to your customers. I couldn't say that being small gave me any kind of like value add to the kids around me. Right. So it's like, it is important to add value, but sometimes it might be a thing that's just neutral, but just makes you unique. And you can use that as well.
Yeah, you can spin it to your advantage, like, right? Like
Yeah,
you can take it and go,
right,
hey, I mean, because everything's pretty much neutral. It's just how we perceive it and how we use it and how we, walk through life with it.
right, right.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah,
I think, when people are out there struggling with these different things that they want to do or they're unsure, like, I want them to think about you going, hey, I might not be able to do this, but I'm going to turn around. I'm going to be the class president and I'm going to own it.
that's
And I'm going
right.
to spell the crap off of anybody's, like spell the pants off of anybody. That would be a good
That's right.
drinking game. Did you ever use it for that? Like,
So, wait, we call it spelling strip poker. I don't know. I don't know. Strip spelling, maybe.
there you go.
Um,
You would just get females though, right? No, man, you don't want to.
that's right. I will say, like I say, I don't know what you could do with that, right? But I mean, I do string together words for a living now. So,
There you go.
you could draw a line from what that led to, that now I spell every single day, right?
Yeah.
In books, in speeches. And one other piece of that story too, that is I didn't completely give up sports. And I think there's another strategy lesson here too. So what I did is I quit all sports. I decided like I can't spread my my limited time and energy too thin. So I quit everything except the one sport that I felt like I would be least disadvantaged by my size, which was wrestling.
Oh,
Um, because of weight classes,
yeah.
yeah, I would immediately be like, well, okay, I was still much smaller than all the kids in the very lowest weight class. But I still, that meant I'm not going to have to go up against the 200-pound eighth grader with more chest hair than my dad, right?
Yes.
So yeah, I'll be giving up some weight, but not like this massive amount. And I continued doing that all 12 months a year. And the next 2 years, again, so I ended up getting growth hormone, right? That's where the tide turned.
Yeah.
The insurance covered the growth hormone. And but still, it was like a few years before we really saw any kind of advantages from that. And I got my butt kicked, like pinned 30 times a year for the next 3 years. And then finally I caught up weight-wise my junior year of high school. And and then I started winning a lot more than I lost. In senior year, I won every match except one and was team captain. And so I think it's like, I don't say that to like brag, but like there is a part of it. It's like, okay, you have to recenter on what is your strength right now. And that doesn't mean you have to give up on the things that you can learn, you can develop, you can grow in or whatever. But it is like taking a cold dose of reality of what do I have to offer right now? Because my business can't wait 5 years to make revenue, right? So
Right.
what can I do right now? And then in this longer term, what can I keep chipping away at? And I can't keep chipping away at everything. I like to say, you can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. And that's particularly true with a business. You have finite time, finite resources, finite budget dollars. So if you're struggling a little, like, are you scattering yourself and your resources too thin? Right?
Yeah.
What's this thing that you can drill on and just be like maniacally obsessed with?
And I love that too, because what you said with the wrestling too is like, if there's something you love, it doesn't matter if you're going to be the top of it,
Yeah.
like you loved sports for what they were. So staying in it, that's incredible too, because like, I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, yeah, win or lose, it is part of sports, but like really it's your love of the sport, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
knowing that you enjoy that atmosphere, that team and
Yeah.
that, so I love that you did that too. Like you still said like, hey, I might not be able to play basketball right now, but this is a sport that I could keep myself in and
Yeah.
compete, and
Yeah.
have fun with. So
Yeah. And I think and I think the thing about sports, but you can apply this to other things. That's what I'm trying to, I've always tried to get my kids to, is to like fall in love with the process of getting better at something. So I want them to have fun. But I think philosophically here, this is just my opinion, right? But and it's not all about winning, but it is about bettering yourself. And so, I mean, sometimes it's okay to just like do this thing just because your friends are doing it and it's fun and whatever. But I think to like really get the value out of sports, it's like setting goals, working toward a goal, getting up, doing something that's hard when you don't want to do it, and sticking to something, for months and maybe even years. So it's like, it's not about winning or losing, but I do believe it is about embracing the process of getting better. Like that's such a critical life lesson.
And honestly, it like plays into right what we were talking about, right? Because like everything you just said, when you're trying to be genuinely you and grow your business, it's the same thing, right? You've got to go hard, you got to keep doing
Yeah.
it. It might not show results right away, but you keep on keeping on. You
Yeah.
better yourself. You do it in spite of fear. When you know you're not maybe on
Yeah.
top, you just keep going. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
love that.
And there's going to be disappointments. You're going to try things that don't work. And you might try a lot of things that don't work for quite a while. Are you going to quit, or are you going to keep trying more things? Right. I
To
mean,
better
that's like
yourself and
the
better your
through
business.
line of every successful entrepreneur.
I love that. I'm going to actually say that. I'm going to say that with my kids too, when they're talking about sports, because that's what I always said. It's about having fun, but it's about having fun and getting better. Like,
Yeah.
because sometimes they just put so much weight on winning or losing. And I'm like, but that's not really what it's about. I mean, it is,
Yeah.
but it's not really what it's about. So I love
Well,
that about bettering yourself.
and I think the gold standard is merging that. So it's about having fun and it's about getting better. And when you do that long enough with enough intentional effort, what you find is that the most fun part about it is getting better, right? That like those two things merge into one. It's fun just to get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, I just think that all wraps in together so well. And I do want to ask you too, though, because this is something I always ask and my listeners love it. But like for my listeners, if there were like one thing that like female entrepreneurs that are just trying to like get their business going and keep going with it, what's that like one thing that you would say that you think they should know, I guess?
Yeah. So I think the one thing is listening to the second voice. Okay. Let me explain what that means. All right. So, and I'm going to try and do a condensed version of it, but essentially, anytime we've tasted a little bit of success. So let's say you decided to start your business. Okay. And it was rough going in the beginning. You got a little bit of success. You found a little bit of a groundswell, a little bit of traction. And all of a sudden, like you now have something to lose. All of a sudden you've got some success. When you first started, it was scary and it was uncomfortable and everything, but it was like, but I don't really have anything to lose, right? And now you have something to lose, and that's when our brain can start playing tricks on us. Okay. And so, the first voice you hear when you have that epiphany of, wait, I now have something to lose. Maybe I have an employee that's relying on me, or maybe, we've started, my family has started relying a little bit on my income. Because now I have an income, and all these things that you realize, wait a second, I have something to lose in a way that I didn't before. You're going to hear the first voice in your mind is going to be the voice of something called loss aversion, right? And that voice is going to tell you to pay 3 times more attention to what could go wrong in this situation rather than what could go right. 3 times more attention to what you might lose rather than what you might gain. Okay. Now, the beauty of it, though, the beauty of us being human beings with this highly evolved brain is that we don't just hear a first voice. First of all, we all hear a first voice. So if you hear that, you're not abnormal. You're not like, it doesn't mean I have no confidence. I'm so insecure. All these things, again, that your first voice is trying to tell you, totally, totally normal. Everybody hears it. Even the most confident person hears that voice. Okay. The difference is they also wait to hear the second voice, because we will have a second voice that's not just this flood of emotions of fear and anxiety and worry. So the first voice is going to say, like, I worry that this is the best it's going to get and that it's all downhill from here. The second voice is going to say, I wonder what insights I'm going to have in the next month or two, right? I wonder what things I'm working on right now that I suck at, that come a year from now, I'm going to find out I'm really good at, right? I wonder if maybe all the struggles and failures that I've had up to this point have been nothing but preparation and training for me to get to the next level starting now, right? And so it's that first voice, I worry, versus that second voice, I wonder. The first voice is not a character flaw. There's not something wrong with you. It's just, it's your limbic system telling you to panic because maybe there's a bear in the back of the cave that you have to get the family away from 10,000 years ago, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if you listen closely and you listen for it, you will hear the second voice, the voice of wonder, that's going to make you curious about what's going to happen, curious about what you're going to discover about yourself, curious about what opportunities are right over the next hill that you couldn't even dream of right now, right? And so the key is don't bemoan the first voice, but pay attention and listen to the second voice. Wait for it.
I love that. And actually, I love the I wonder with that, because even if for some reason you're in a spiral, because we talk about the negative spirals, right, that we get into, maybe take a minute and go, what about I wonder? Like, let's make that second voice show up, even if it doesn't want to right now.
That's right.
Because
That's right.
sometimes we do have to search for it a little bit. So yes. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much.
I'll tell you one other thing, Adrienne, is to patch onto that. So our language, the way we talk influences the way we think. And, the research on that has been somewhat mixed, right? Because just spewing ungrounded positivity doesn't always work, although it works more often than it doesn't. So if you're gonna err on the side of one or the other, err on the side of positivity, because your first voice you think is being realistic is actually being pessimistic, right? But so switching, every time you think I worry, say to yourself, but I wonder, right? Every time, if you're saying like, oh my gosh, what should I do? This thing happened and I don't know what should I do. Instead of saying what should I do, you ask what could I do, right? And so again, it's just ways of like steering your brain onto a new track.
I love that. And I know our listeners are going to use that, because that is ideal, is to just stop yourself. Like you said, nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's bad. We all have that. But then to use those words to get you to start thinking a little bit differently. And like you said, you can't just make it positive, but slowly you're going to start listening to that second voice faster. Right?
That's right. That's right. It's going to get a little louder, a little louder. It's like, you're going to become more attuned to it.
Yes. Well, Nick, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. You guys, Nick will be, I will be posting all week about, different things that some of your speeches and stuff, and I will post how to connect with him on Instagram, Facebook, wherever. So I'll put all that out there, but I really appreciate you coming, Nick. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, Adrienne. It was a lot of fun.
And you guys, until next week, realize the power is within you.